Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of ICR, Investigating Community Resilience. Half-hour discussions focused on all of the different kinds of kernels of resilient strength that we need to build into our communities. We continue with this edition, a series of discussions with our executive producer, Bob Russell. Bob, we're going to pick up right away with where we left off last time, which was the thought that we need to develop a new metric for gauging the success of society, away from measuring that as consumers,
right,
and economic measures of how much we get to consume, but to some sort of measures of happiness, and a look at how much does it take to provide happiness and what does provide happiness, but a whole new metric for measuring success in society.
Yeah, we've been stuck on this metric of gross domestic product and gross national product for quite a while, trying to measure that everything we did counted, whether it was pollution or disease or it was good or bad, it all added up into a positive growth, and even though, disease isn't growth, it's negative, it should be negative. Climate change should be negative, but it's...
Pollution is not growth, even if it came from some economic effort that made jobs.
So we need to really, how do you switch, from, and that's been problematic, and people have been working on different indexes for quite some time now. Herman Daly started working on one. They've been doing quality indexes in Bhutan, which is a country in Nepal. Started working years ago on a happiness index that they figured seriously that it was more important to be happy than it was to have stuff. And they've proven that true over and over again, that it's better to have happiness than stuff. That, once you have shelter and food and family time and relationships, that's happiness. And anything above that that has to do with money does not add to your happiness index.
And to acknowledge again, you're in a struggle against cancer. And you have amazed all of us around you in your community with your continued strength and perseverance and effort, even to learn. We're gonna go through your marvelous stack of books here as you continue to drive yourself to learn more and more and more. But you've shared with us that your strength comes from that happiness, from that community of people around you, sharing joy, sharing happiness, that those things, no amount of money right now in your situation would be of any satisfaction to you compared to the people and the things around you. Yeah, let's get to this book, because this is the subject of this first book.
This is the book that Jim Crowfoot got for me. What's the economy good for anyway? And it really does start talking about why, through the whole book, why we're measuring things wrong, and charts and things about what makes, human life good. And it really is, it has a lot of information in it about how do you measure happiness. And happiness is really important. And happiness is related to how much time you get to spend with your family and with your community, and how much time that you don't spend commuting in a car. So there's a negative, you can have a quality of life that's based on, taking control of your own time. And, time dollars do that. So it's a really good, and there's a lot of indexes, and this is just one of the happiness index books that has that in it. There's a whole book on, I don't have it burned up in the fire, but on happiness. They've been studying it. And it's been clear since the 70s that as money is increased and gross domestic product is increased, happiness hasn't. And that really, happiness has stayed just about where it was. You don't need more to be happier. You just need more time.
There's been a good bit of research just in these past months and this past winter suggesting exactly that from a variety of different research perspectives. Grab another book there. I'm again impressed by your continued stack of reading material.
Well, I
Let's
think
grab
that-
another one and share that.
I think if people haven't had a chance to read Al Al Gore's book, he gets a bad rap from the what's it, left, right?
The political right.
The political right. But Al is a really smart guy. And he has got a lot of good insights. And even though it's kind of a big book, it's really it's a lot of reference material. This whole section here, this whole chunk here is reference.
So a
if you
book
this is
supporting
the
its
book,
facts
right.
with its references for its
So
sources.
so here's the book part is like this much, and the reference material is this much.
Always good to see that much supporting reference in a person's work.
And it's really readable. You really would want to have a dictionary with you probably, just so you understand some key concepts. But it's critical thinking, and that's what we've sort of have lost, that ability to do critical, rational thinking. And this is, he wrote another book, The Assault on Reason, which was, why are we picking on reason? And the other author that, I don't have her book here because it's somewhere packed away from the fire, is Susan Jacoby, who wrote a book on, there's always been a war against intellectuals in this country since the time of Thomas Jefferson, that we don't like smart people. Never have, for whatever reason. So, but smart
Would
people
be
are important.
interesting historic, cultural reasonings for that I think could be fascinating.
Yeah.
Although outside of this discussion, perhaps grab another book. 'Cause
Yeah,
I like going through what you've been.
Well,
been
this
at
is,
here.
what we did with, when we had Michael Schumann come here, he had just finished a book called, Local Investing. And then a book came out about local energy production. And now this is a book coming out about building the food shed. And it's part of their community resilience guide, because now there's a website called resilience.org, which is a great reference.
Resilience.org. It is one we've referenced to our viewers several times, but
right.
it is an important website.
And so in MLUI, the Michigan Land Use Institute, is doing a lot of good work with Taste of Local Difference and helping to rebuild the food shed and building a food hub. And this is just a really good book as a reference book, about what's going on in the rest of the country, to get ideas about how to help us rebuild our food shed.
It's one area where we have shared in our discussions, an example of some good state-level government action, and that is the Michigan Good Food Charter. Not a statement about how things have to be in policy in the future, but an outline of a food future that makes sense for us so that everyone can plug into a similar strategy. And it is a kind of it is an example of some good governance coming out of an otherwise seemingly broken level of our government structure.
Right, and it's
But food is the key there, yes.
in Michigan, I don't think people realize that, why California is such a good growing state, because it has all that coastal area and all those climate changes. Michigan's much the same. We have all this coastal area and all these different climates. So we grow a large diversity of food, much more than any other part of the country, next to California. So we're, for adaptation for our food shed here, we're buffered by the Great Lakes. We've got water. We've got a lot of different kinds of climates. So we're in Michigan's in a positive place. And so that's a good thing. If we can hang on to our ecosystem services by not letting them be degraded through climate change and economic development, Michigan will be a really good place to be homesteading.
And let's be clear about ecosystem services. It's absolutely essential to our resilience discussion that we recognize again that humans have not divorced themselves from nature. We do not command nature. We do not rule it. And we still, in fact, absolutely rely on the services
Yep.
that the ecosystem provide to us. The two most obvious are clean water and clean air.
Yep. And climate.
And climate.
Yeah.
a climate that we can count on. That is, we've heard our good friend Josh Wunsch tell us that farmers have never been able to count on the weather. No, but they've been able to count on the climate.
Yeah.
That year in and year out, it's going to be reasonably successful to grow thus and so in a certain place, a certain crop.
Yeah.
Those kinds of certainties are leaving
Fading.
us now.
Yep.
Are fading, and that's the demand of adaptation that we've been talking about.
Yeah, we have to grow different crops, and we have to figure out how to maintain those crops, either with coverings, or with irrigation, that sort of thing. We have to maintain creative ways, to manage the changing climate with our own innovation.
Mm-hmm.
Humans are innovative. We can do that. We do drip irrigation now. We can do different things. We do the remade. We put stuff over top of to keep things from frosting. The growers are putting we're growing hoop houses so we can grow year round here. So we are adapting to a changing climate.
And the demand that we adapt in order to produce enough food for us to eat will be so real that it will continue to be one of the real pushing forces in adaptation, in resilience, and in the development of localism.
Yeah, and I think there's a big pushback by agribusiness to say you can't possibly compete at the local level with organic food against our industrial complex. And it's turning out not to be true. They keep making up data that's not exactly true.
Well, and it's becoming clear that the large agribusiness scale food production model is so fragile that it's not going to work regardless either.
Right.
So we do have to find a new
Right.
another model.
Yeah, it's pumping all the water out and using up all the energy, and it's a dead end process. And I think if we go back, this was years ago when we started figuring out the ecological footprint concept of the planet. Is it how much of there's a whole bunch of natural living things on the planet that live here with us. They need sunlight, resource, soil, ecosystem services with us. We can't use theirs. We have to share it. Right now, we're using more than our fair share. We're using a planet and a half. We can't continue to use a planet and a half. There'll be nothing left for the rest of life, the life force on the planet. And if that starts to die, so do we. So it's in our best interest to use less to make sure that we keep the earth healthy so that we stay healthy. Our health depends upon not using more than we should.
Our health does not depend upon the latest home entertainment system we've been able to afford. Our happiness depends on such much deeper roots than that, but really tied to this environment understanding that we are still rooted in nature.
Yeah. We need to be rooted in our culture and our society with social capital. And that's what we have here. We have redone the Opera House. Michael Moore has redone the State Theater. Interlochen is a thriving music camp. We have a arts community. We have the Old Town Playhouse. We have artisan guilds. Art is a really important way to tell stories about being resilient. And we've embedded quite a bit of art in our community. And that's really important that we have art. We have a lot of musicians. We have about the same time we started Bioneers, they started the Earthwork Music Collective.
And Josh Davis.
He's part of that, and Seth Bernard.
And Josh expressed to us in a discussion that art is so important to a community and a community's resilience because it is the artist who by definition is the creative thinker, the person who can see in a different way from the common view and teach us in that new vision.
He's a translator.
A translator. And Josh expressed that, Josh Davis, so well.
Yeah.
So well.
And so that's what artists are able to do through music, visuals. Todd Springer, who is the farmer, artist, potter, can really help us do that. And And then there's the indigenous people who've been around here a long time who also can help us with that understanding of how nature, they look ahead generations and back generations, and so they're a good guide for us as well.
I think somehow art is that special translating and connecting voice that constantly does connect us with the ecosystem, with our roots that are still very much in nature.
Mm-hmm.
I see you've grabbed another book there.
Right.
Let's go on to your next choice.
Well, I'm going to show people this book. It's called The World in 2050. And unlike a lot of books, this isn't a predictive book so much. This is a book that's already happening. And I think it is pure climate science, that the North Pole is warmed up faster than any other part of the planet right now. The ice is melting. It's not about we're going to move there. We already are. There are billions of dollars worth of investments being put into the ring of land around the North Pole, because it's not a matter of if, it's just happening.
I often say, when someone says, well, what's it going to be like in the future with climate change? Well, look about you.
Yeah.
Because we live in the era of the changing climate as it is now. I mean, we live in the midst of it.
Yeah, and
it's here now. It's not a maybe in the future.
And it's going there. And it's not a book about, well, we're going to move there. It's a book about we're already there.
That's right.
And so the infrastructure is being built. We're building harbors, we're building factories, we're building seed storage areas. It's already the deal.
And for those who really still are in some way of denying that we have this massive challenge in the future from a changing climate, simply look about you at the big money. Where is the big money going? It is, in so many ways, investing in the recognition that the climate already is changing.
Right. And so here's the other big shift that will be happening, is building an economy that works for all of us, and it is really the emerging ownership revolution. We need to own, like we own Oriana Food Co-op, is, you know, a $12 million a year food co-op, most successful co-op in the Midwest, owned by the people. And Cherryland Rural Electric just celebrated their 75th year. I think they're owned by the people.
Probably the most widespread example of co-ops in the country, I think, might be those rural electric co-ops.
And then Yes Magazine is really how co-ops are driving the new economy. And that's one of the other shifts of people who are in co-ops are happier. Co-ops work better. They learn about governance. They do their own training. This is the model that we need to move towards.
And the very point is in the word itself.
Co-op.
Cooperative.
Yeah.
Cooperative. Instead of winning.
Yeah, instead of competition.
Competition, which produces this winning and losing.
What's
problem.
really happened in science, we've sort of, I don't know why we don't believe in, it's not a belief system, it's an understanding that science moves forward from, hypothesis to theories, to, you prove it. And it's becoming clearer and clearer that in an evolutionary reality, if you believe in evolution, which unfortunately a lot of people don't anymore, the rest of the world does, but we don't, is that our species evolved to the most when we cooperated, not when we were in competition. That our model of moving forward as a society to build social capital and to get better as a species has been when we've been more cooperative, not when we've been more competitive. And that's been, studies, anthropological studies have shown that over and over again. And that data is, slowly is coming out. And that's another shift that will help us understand that cooperation is better than competition. We got off track way long ago. This whole Darwin survival of the fittest kind of thing was not true. Darwin never said that. He always said, the species that cooperate the most, go forward the furthest.
It almost seems so obvious if one thinks about it. we're better off out in the world. I mean, if you want to throw us out in the jungle, if we work together.
Absolutely.
By myself, I'm grossly alone and terrified.
Yeah, and it's clear that it works.
So clear that it is questionable. How can we?
And people
how
taking care of each
culturally
other.
can we think differently? I gotta believe again that it's from our experience, our historic cultural experience of this wide open frontier.
Right. I think we got
yes,
off.
historically we stole from other people, but it was so huge and so full of resource, we got away from recognizing limits.
Yep.
And we thought that the oomph of the individual would produce us the all.
Yeah, that's how we kept shifting to the individuals more important than the community. But then there's another book that I've been reading that helps us continue to move in that direction, which is
I can see the title takes us right there.
Prosperity Without Growth, Economics for a Finite Planet.
You can hold that up real
We
clearly.
live on a finite planet.
Economics for a finite planet. And we are finite. Again,
Yeah.
another point that I feel so many people really fail to recognize.
Yeah, I quit growing a number of years ago. Just think of humans, if you grew infinitely, how big you'd end up being. Gigantic.
If you grow at the rate that you are, say, when you're 12 years old, and keep growing that way for your life, you'd be huge.
Yeah, and it doesn't
And
work
yet,
that way.
about 18 or 20, as we stop growing, we don't stop developing.
Right, and that's what we got to do. And one of the more fascinating books, which I think I read, I got interrupted during the fire, but is a really clear book about how there's no such thing as a free market. Free markets are a construct of humans. We made them up to try to fit consumption patterns. And so this is the surprising design of market economies. They're not real. There is no market economy. It's made up. We make them up. We do policies around them. We set goals and guidelines for them. And we hope then that the economy conforms to those markets. But the market didn't exist until we created it. And so if we create markets around happiness and less consumption, that's what we'll get, as opposed to markets that are designed around more of everything. And this is a fabulous book to read.
And if we understand that our markets are designed around continued growth and consumption, and try to manage it that way, given that those don't have this continued growth does not have real roots in the wealth of nature,
Right.
then we are constantly going to throw ourselves into crisis.
Yeah.
Our economy will not work as long as we continue to define it as define ourselves and our role in it as consumers.
And there's a lot of books about this stuff. Plenitude, the New Economics of True Wealth, great book. Harvest, I think she's a Harvard economist. I don't know.
Let's read that title again, please. The Plenitude.
It's called Plenitude, the New Economics of True Wealth. And then this other book that I'm going to get to, Tom Prince's book, Treading Softly, really good. Good book.
How to have a
Softly.
small ecological imprint,
Yeah.
footprint.
And then flourishing, how to flourish is kind of this new word of, we don't want to just be sustainable. That's boring. Let's flourish. So it's using different language. And then this is an economic thinker, just sort of a background book to have to understand, how we rationalize things. It's called Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow. We have two parts of our brain evolutionarily, that the fight or flight or the thoughtful part. And this book really analyzes the fact that sometimes we make decisions too quickly and get off on the wrong path. Sometimes we take time and make a decision and take a while and we go the right direction. It's a really good book. And
sometimes I think that we go too slow and hang on to old thought
yeah,
because it's safe and secure, rather than, and I guess this isn't an issue of deciding too quickly or too slowly, but sometimes we hang on
Yeah.
to such old thoughts that it certainly gets in the way of the
And then
forward-moving decision.
Kenny Ausubel of Bioneers has a series of essays called Dreaming the Future. That's a really, really good book. I got a lot of resilience thinking out of his work. And he got a lot of resilience thinking out of what they do in Australia with Brian Walker. And so it's all a continuum. And then Buzz Holden is the guy in 73 who started the whole thinking about resilience. Resilience is actually a property of nature. You know, it's not what we think it is what nature does. And we just have recognized that. But this is a really good book it's short essays, and it's worth reading them. It's worth picking up that book. And there's
I'm struck how many times the book titles in your list here have the word future.
Yeah.
A great concern as we look to the future, because we know it's not going to be kind of the luxury of the past.
And let's have a future. That's what I say. And so here's one of my favorite books that I think
too.
If anybody wanted to understand how the real wealth is created in the economy, they should read The Wealth of Nature by John Michael Greer. Economics as if Survival Mattered. It's not a very big book. It's really concise, well written.
It does take some thought. For example, one of his prime points is that in this country and in the overshoot of human thinking, we tend to equate money with wealth. And
Yep.
money is not wealth, and this is referenced in the very title,
Right.
The Wealth of Nature, because
Yeah.
wealth is something much deeper and much more tied to our ecosystem services
Right.
than money.
Yeah, we have this tertiary wealth that we pay attention. What got us into this trouble in this crash with these fake derivatives and bad mortgages that's all fake money. It has no connection to nature. So we made something out of nothing, kind of like the Big Bang. Who knows what that is? Who knows what money from nothing is? But we have a lot of it now. It's like if all of a sudden we were playing musical money chairs and this music stops, there's not anywhere near enough chairs to sit down in. Mm-hmm. There's way more money floating around than there really is.
And money is not bad in and of itself, and is in fact necessary for a smoothly functioning economy. But when we misconstrue money as wealth itself,
Mm-hmm.
and when we misconstrue happiness as being more and more consumption and stuff, then we really are off on two ill-fated paths.
Yep.
Right there. And your books are all about straightening out that balance.
Well, in this last book I'm looking at here is The Resilience Imperative, which is like, we have to do this. And it's a cooperative transition to a steady state economy. If we do not get off of a finite growth pattern and understand how resilience works, the whole system is just it'll be a painful crash. We'll go from we're at 7 billion now, we're going to get up to 9 billion people maybe, and we'll just crash.
I think this is one of the intellectually challenging points that those of us on our side of the discussion have to acknowledge, and that is, rebalancing our out of balance human living system on the planet is ultimately going to require fewer human mouths.
Oh, absolutely.
We have way overshot the population size that the planet can hang on to. And Bob, I think we have to wrap it up with that thought. We're going to continue our discussions.
And, one last thing is, who wants to give it up? We live this good life. It's hard to give up the good life.
Yes, it is. We'll continue.
Okay.
Thank you. And thank you all for being with us on this edition of ICR. We do hope to see you next time. We'll continue the discussion.